Fade in. Exterior camp, morning. Morning shines on the camp. It's a small collection of tents and tables. Food is strewn around the trees, but everything still seems so empty. One of the tents opens up, and Brian exits the structure. He carefully makes his way through the various debris and fixes himself a small breakfast from the food available. As he eats, he looks around at all the empty tents. His eyes barely glaze over the various corpses that can be seen. After he has finished his breakfast, he reluctantly enters one of the other tents. Pushing aside the dead body, he retrieves the camera from the back of the tent. Brian holds the camera up to his face. It's recording. Brian.
Last night, we lost everyone. It's not even we anymore. It's just me. If you've been watching this far, then you should know that my chances of survival are slim.
Tears up.
From what I can tell, there was no one else out here. I'm alone. My best chance is to make it to the barn, is to make it to the barn we were headed for before.
He shuts off the camera. Brian climbs out of the tent and begins gathering supplies. While rummaging through one of the tents, he finds a picture of the whole group. He looks over at one of the corpses and sighs. Brian gathers up all the bodies and burns them in the center of the camp. It's afternoon by now, and he has to move. Woods. The camera watches Brian move through the bleak woods. It's getting dark, and he's becoming visibly nervous. Brian.
If I don't find somewhere safe to sleep...
Loud buzzing. Brian looks down at his Geiger counter. It's dangerously high. In the clearing, he hurriedly changes into his hazmat suit. Clearing. The camera watches Brian sitting by his makeshift campsite. He nervously fiddles with a stick. Brian.
I don't even know how many days have passed since it happened. But I don't think anything's gotten better. I don't think anything ever will.
The sounds of guttural screaming erupt from the woods. Brian dipping his stick in the fire.
Oh, shit.
Brian waves the fire at the trees.
Stay back!
Human-like shapes rustle in the foliage, running from his fire. Brian.
Get out of here!
The sound in the woods suddenly stops. Confused, Brian steps closer to the trees. Something moves. The camera is still in the same position, watching his campfire. Behind it, screaming and fighting can be heard. Brian is struggling with something. In the fight, the camera is knocked on the ground. It catches Brian falling on the ground, unconscious. Then it fizzes out. Static. It fizzes into life early morning, and watches an old shape drag Brian away. Then it fades back into static. Interior, church, morning. The camera comes back on. It is staring directly at the face of a very old man. He inspects the machine. In the background, Brian is lying on a table, sleeping. Still in his hazmat suit, except for the helmet. Old man.
This is a very nice camera you have here.
Brian wakes up with a start. Terrified, he jumps off the table. Brian.
What the hell? Who are you?
The old man laughs and approaches Brian.
I'm a friend.
Brian.
Hey, all my friends are dead. So are you going to kill me, or will I have to kill you?
There'll be no killing in the house of God.
Brian looks around. He realizes that he's in a church. Brian.
This is a church!
Yes, you should treat it like one. Now, I don't know what you've learned out there, but when a man saves your life, the custom is to thank him, not to threaten him. Now sit down, son.
Brian tentatively sits down and hangs his head in his hands.
You
Brian.
saved me from those creatures.
The old man goes back to fiddling with the camera.
They're not just creatures. They're human beings.
Yeah, who tried to kill me?
You must learn to see light in this dark world, my son. Or else, you will go blind.
How the hell... Oh, heck, sorry. Am I supposed to do that?
Fixing a bowl of soup.
Have hope, my son.
Hands the bowl to Brian.
Hope is the driving force that pushes us through our darkest hour.
How can anyone have hope in times like these? The entire world is falling apart. Civilization as we know it is coming to an end. And I'm supposed to hope everything gets better?
The priest grabs an old ham radio from his bench and sits across from Brian.
I keep a ham radio in my room just in case. And several nights ago, I received a message. Would you like me to play it for you?
Sure, go ahead.
Crackling coming through the speakers. Hello, hello. This is Safe Haven. Please come in. We repeat, please come in. We have food, we have shelter. We repeat, food and shelter. We're on the west coast, past Los Angeles. If you need food and shelter, we have that and much more. We repeat, this is Safe Haven. Please come in. The priest switches off the radio.
That is hope.